And we are full steam ahead into week 3 of the NFL season. That is John Owning of PFF. I am Nick Harris of the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. We got to shout out our producer behind the scenes. He is back, dadded up with a kid in arm. He was feeding him earlier in the pre-show meeting. No, he wasn't. The kid's been sleeping. Shout out to Noah Gates. Newest human just dropped. Be sure to check in. No, we are excited to get you ready for this Bears matchup going into week 3, but also a little bit of review. We told you we would look at the secondary issues a little bit more going into or coming out of the Giants game in week 2. Before we dive into that, Caden's got a baby pick ready. Throw it up there, Caden. Oh.
Hey,
let's go.
Look at that handsome fella.
I don't know that face. He looks like a good interior lineman.
Yeah, future DT, baby. Let's go.
I love it. Hey, shout out to Caden. Shout out to his wife, Sarah. Super happy for y'all. We got an extra body in the Cross Chop family this week. So glad everybody came out healthy and everybody's home and getting going. Speaking of getting going, let's dive into this film room really quick. So I went ahead and dove into all 7 pass plays that were given up in the
You're stealing my thing. This is my niche, man. You're stealing it.
Hey.
I thought I was the film guy. What's going on?
I will shout out John because he helped me with a couple of these. We had the group chat lit this morning on a couple of these plays trying to exactly figure out. So shout out to John for sure. But I dove into all 7 pass plays that were given up by the Cowboys that were more than 20 yards. And it's crazy that there were 7 of them, first off. But let's go ahead and take a look into all 7 to figure out what exactly went wrong. So let's start with this first one. And appreciate Caden for the screen share here. This is the first one.
All of these are broken down in your article on Fort Worth Star-Telegram.
Good plug. Thank you. I should have plugged that to begin with. See, that's why you're here for the brand. First quarter. This is that deep pass down the middle to Wan'Dale Robinson, that 50-yard gain, and I've seen this on Twitter being attributed to Reddy Stewart. This is not a Reddy Stewart issue. This is a Kenneth Murray issue. They are playing Tampa 2 coverage. Yes, it's a Kenneth Murray issue, but it's also a Matt Eberflus issue in expecting Kenneth Murray to be able to cover that deep middle part of the field. John, do you want to dive into this a little bit more as well?
Also, we got to give credit to Brian Daboll here because this is a specific Tampa 2 beater, and the Cowboys are playing a Tampa 2 defense. So this is a concept that is built to beat the Tampa 2 defense. That's why you see that they run that little sit route to occupy Murray's eyes, and then they bring the vertical down behind him. What he's supposed to do is he's supposed to be aware of all the threats, especially to the 3 receiver side, the 3 receiver side. And he should be able to have vision of that hit through that number 3 receiver to the number 2 running the vertical and stay more connected. You see there's like 3 yards of separation there. It should be he's on his back hip so that it can kind of create a vice between the 2 back safeties and him, and they vice around it, and it really condenses the throwing lane. But because he gets his eyes, he's in blinders all locked up on that sit route, he's not able to relate to the number 2 running a vertical. This is not on Reddy Stewart. This is not match coverage by any means. As you can see, no one is running a match style coverage. The only reason why you see the cornerback at the top of the screen doing a man turn and running is because there's a 3 receiver. It's a 3-by-1 formation. So when you're running a 3-by-1, that outside receiver's in a meg look, which means man everywhere he goes, unless he runs a shallow breaking route. And that's only to do it so that they can relate to the receivers on that side, because there are more weapons to the defense's left than there are to the defense's right. So you kind of have to even out the math there by having the cornerback man up that corner, but everybody else is playing a typical zone Tampa 2 defense that you would normally see every single week from every single team.
Yeah, it's something I want to point out too, because we're going to point this out a couple of times as we go through this film. Look at Reddy Stewart right here around the 40-yard line, pointing down to the Wan'Dale Robinson leak, and he's pointing at him so that Kenneth Murray can get over. Sorry, it's my dog. I thought I locked him up, but I guess he broke out. Reddy Stewart, there are multiple times in this thread where you can tell he knows this scheme a little bit more than everybody else. So it's proven, the proof is in the pudding that he learned a little something last year in Chicago with Matt Eberflus. Let's dive into the second one. 3:43 in the first quarter. This was a 28-yard gain from Wilson to Neighbors down the left sideline. Just your typical standard cover three. There's nothing really complex about this. This is just Trayvon Diggs getting beat. Malik Neighbors down the left sideline. The athleticism was just a little bit more on display. He got to the ball before Diggs could. And, there's a couple of times where Diggs gave up a little bit too much cushion. This is probably a good instance, but this is also just Neighbors with a good release package getting out.
And yeah, you can kind of see here that Diggs is still a little bit limited athletically, because you see how kind of slow he is to flip his hips and run with Neighbors here. He kind of stays in that press and he doesn't land hands. If he's going to be a little bit slow, he has to land a press with that inside hand and kind of funnel him more to the sideline. But Diggs is not able to get any hands in the press when he's in that kind of press zone. And that allows Neighbors to get a free release to the outside and really create that separation, because he's such a better athlete than Diggs is right now.
Yeah, would have liked to have seen some hands on that play as well. This is another Tampa 2, but it's not as egregious as the Kenneth Murray responsibility being blown. This is just really more so Russell Wilson being a veteran quarterback, understanding where the hole is going to be and taking advantage of an unathletic linebacker in Jack Sanborn. So in this Tampa 2 responsibility, once again, the middle linebacker has to get out and cover that deep middle portion of the field. Jack Sanborn tries to do that, but again, just a beautifully placed ball by Russell Wilson to get it to Wan'Dale Robinson right in that hole in that zone coverage.
One thing that you would like to see here, it's not Reddy Stewart's fault that this ball is completed, but you would like to see him get a better reroute on the receiver to give Sanborn a little bit more time to get over there, or to widen the receiver enough that he funnels it to the deep safety. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't get enough of a reroute there, so it makes it a little bit difficult. But still, like you said, the main culprit is that Jack Sanborn is just not a good enough athlete to get out there. And you see that he takes kind of that, go to the very beginning again. You'll see from that end zone view, and you'll see that Sanborn takes a false step forward. And when he takes that false step forward, he's done, because he's not a good enough athlete to take that false step right there.
Boom.
And then he has to turn and run, and that's just too much. Kenneth Murray, because Kenneth Murray is such a better athlete, maybe he could get away with that a little bit better, but Sanborn just isn't, and that's what really cost the Cowboys in this situation.
And there's Reddy Stewart once again pointing. It's like, hey, that guy. Okay, I'm gonna delve into one of those talking points you just had. What can Reddy Stewart do legally to kind of reroute Robinson here? Just
get better hands on him. Try to push him out more wider. Try to get him wider, or if he stems inside, push him in closer to Sanborn. It's kind of hard to see from him on this end zone view, but if you go to the wide view, you can see that he doesn't really land good enough hands within that 5-yard cushion zone.
Yeah, perfect. Makes sense. Let's dive into this fourth one. This is the touchdown play. It's actually the very next play. This is your standard cover 4, and I put Trayvon Diggs as the main responsibility here. And we talked about this play on Monday's show, John. I also want to highlight Donovan Wilson here too, though, because he could have been in a better position to 100%. Take on this play, and he 100%. Just wasn't there.
You could tell about a big way that you can key on where the safety should be is look at the leverage that the cornerback is playing. And as you can see, Diggs is playing that low outside hip. And that likely means that the safety is supposed to play up top on the near hip, because what you want to do is create a vice between your cornerback and your safety so that they kind of arrive at the catch point and really limit that throwing lane or that completable passing window. And you see Donovan Wilson, like he had a lot of issues in this game. His eyes were in the wrong place. He wasn't able to vision the outside vertical route because his eyes were so keyed in on what was going inside. And this is why Donovan Wilson is not someone who should be a deep safety in a defense. He is much better in the box, and it's because his vision's much better when you can narrow what he's looking at. When he has to see the whole field, he's kind of like he doesn't see the forest through the trees type of thing.
Yeah, and it's funny because you can see him pleading for an incompletion this whole play. So he goes, Donovan Wilson tries to motion incomplete there, and then he tried to motion bobble. It's like, nah, dog. That was.
And if you go back, because the Giants are in a 3-by-1 again, that weak side safety does have to vision to see if the number 3 receiver is coming vertical on the special route downfield.
Makes sense.
He comes up too much, and as soon as that guy stops route, he needs to immediately get depth. He comes too far inside. He needs to trust his teammates and trust his eyes. He's just so much trying to jump everything that it gets him put in pad position often.
All in all, though, too much cushion being
100%.
given by Trayvon Diggs. All in all,
too.
this is a play that Diggs has made in the past and should make in this instance. But Wilson, needs to help out his guy.
And like we talked about on Monday, Diggs is an out of phase corner. He plays out of phase a lot. He just doesn't have that recovery speed to get there and really contest the catch point like he did in the past. Hopefully that's something that comes back as it gets stronger and more confident as the season progresses. Or maybe it's something that we have to wait till next year, because they say year or two after, those knee injuries is when they're finally at 100%.
Now this is the one we were discussing in our group chat this morning, and John was basically like, Nick, you're stupid. This is what it is, and you're 100% right. I'll kind of let you delve into this one.
Yeah, the Cowboys are here in a very simple cover 3. As you can see here, everybody on the defense is playing cover 3 except Elam. Diggs is playing on top of the vertical in his silo coverage. You see Murray and Sanborn dropping to the hooks. Sanborn is using what's called a robot technique, where he turns and runs with the crosser. That is a very cover 3 style technique. You see the flat defenders. You see Hooker playing the deep middle. And Elam, for some reason, he's playing it like it's cover 2. He tries to reroute the receiver, and then he kind of just sinks to his little short to intermediate depth. But as you can see, when you have a safety in the deep middle part of the field, it is impossible for them to get over there to outside the numbers, almost to the hash marks on the sideline. That is impossible. I don't care if Earl Thomas, Ed Reed is back there. They are not making that kind of play. It is just not feasible. So Elam, he got it mixed up, had a brain fart. I'm not sure, but everybody else is playing cover 3, and he is definitely not.
And this is the part where we talk about communication in the secondary and how there were so many times where there were lapses in communication. This is a prime example, and there's going to be another one here in a second, of Elam thinking it's cover 2, everybody else playing cover 3, and that leaves Slayton wide open. And you go against a veteran quarterback like Russell Wilson, he's going to identify that 10 times out of 10. And that's ultimately what led to the biggest gain in the entire game for either team through the air. Now, the fourth quarter plays, and man, this is another one that you helped me figure out here, and it's Malik Hooker. You ask what is going on here, and I asked it so much that I thought it was more of a cover 2 buzz, that he was in the right, because why else would he be stepping forward? But it truly is just your standard. It truly is just your standard cover 3, where Malik Hooker was just not in the right position.
Yeah, here I mistakenly said that he's supposed to play on top of this, but he's not. He's supposed to play underneath it and get depth, while the deep safety, Donovan Wilson, who has his eyes in the wrong place yet again, they're supposed to, like I've said it many times, they're supposed to create that vice on the corner, on the receiver as he gets downfield, but neither one of them does it. Donovan Wilson has blinders on. He's not seeing the vertical to the outside. He's supposed to be deeper than the deepest. But he gets pulled up by another inside sit route. He's not having his vision. He's not seeing the whole field, which is what a deep safety has to do. And once again, it's why you do not put Donovan Wilson as your deep middle safety.
It doesn't make sense.
Consistently. These are the types of things that happen.
It doesn't make sense at all, and I don't get it. I think you have probably 3 players on your roster that are better fit for this type of situation than Donovan Wilson, and one of them is on the field, Malik Hooker. So it's confusing why he was put in a position to do that.
I understand the theory of what Eberflus is trying to do. He's trying to roll and rock his safety, so quarterbacks can't get an idea of who's going to be the box safety, who's going to play deep when they're in their cover 3. Are they going to play both deep? Like, he's trying to create that confusion because he doesn't play the most complex coverages. So he's trying to be complex with his rotations, but that is putting sub players in positions where they don't perform optimally. They're not playing to their strengths. They're getting put in places where they're actually performing to what the weakest parts of their game are. And through 2 weeks, the offenses are taking full advantage of those situations.
I wanted to pause it right here because, reminder, this is a 4th and 4 play. If the defense gets off the field here, there's an opportunity for the offense to run the clock out and win the game, and we don't deal with nearly as many dramatics as we ended up dealing with in this game as a spectator. 4th and 4, I wanted to pause it right here because Russell Wilson realistically has 3 options beyond the sticks here to pick up the first down.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't understand the call here overall. I mean, there's so many layers to the call that I don't understand. First off, Donovan Wilson being the free in this instance, but also why not just run cover 2 here? It's 4th and 4. Cover that middle range of the field and let those safeties just take half of a responsibility, cut up the field in half, and it makes this a lot more manageable. I don't get running what they ran here and calling what they called here.
Yeah, I don't get it. Personally in these situations, I like to bring blitzes, play tight man coverage, so at least you have one guy on every receiver and there should not be anybody running free. And you're getting pressure on the ball, making the quarterback have to make a quick decision. I don't like this idea of kind of sitting back and playing these kind of soft vanilla zone coverages where if the quarterback gets protection or if you have a miscommunication or if you have bad eyes, you're going to get put in a really poor position. When you're playing man coverage, you're not going to have bad eyes because your eyes are only on your man. So obviously you still get beat in those situations, but at least you limit the coverage bust so they're not going to be easy pitching catches like we've seen for so many plays in this 7-play clip that you put up for us.
Man coverage, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
I say that, and I think there's a potentiality where there was man coverage on this play, but nevertheless, whether it's cover 2 man or cover 4, this responsibility falls on Trayvon Diggs and Donovan Wilson. Kyer Elam and Donovan Wilson. I honestly attribute the fault here more to Donovan Wilson. I thought Kyer Elam played good coverage on this play. Yeah. I really did. And it's more so Donovan Wilson taking such a poor angle.
Again, why is this man playing deep? We've seen so many examples of it.
Exactly. You see Elam running step for step. He could have played the ball better. I'll say that, talking about Elam. But Wilson taking the angle, hold on, I'll stop it. He takes that angle right there. And that ball is going to get to at least the 10-5-yard line. I honestly didn't expect it to have the hang time that it did. I can't expect for a defender to think the same thing, but you have to be planning for at least to get to the 10. I mean, Wilson was cutting him off at the 15, and he was already getting overrun. And he got outran 15 yards down the field after
and
that.
This one is even more egregious because Donovan Wilson has no other vertical or any threats to that side of the field. Yeah. What is he doing? All you have to do is sink and get depth. The guy is running an obvious vertical route from the very beginning. Just sink and stay on top of the route is really all you have to do here. And you're going to be in prime position to break up the ball when the pass comes. But because he doesn't sink enough and he's taking poor angles, it causes the Cowboys to get beat here in a very key situation.
And if I could play devil's advocate for a moment, is it maybe a situation where Donovan Wilson is trying to negate a deep crosser because he knows that if Neighbors cuts right here, that's
Hooker's
Wilson's
got the deep crosser there. Hooker is responsible for that, especially because there's a vertical stem. So if it stems across, he's the one that has to, what they call is hammer down on the deep crosser or the deep post. Gotcha. Hooker would have been the one to have to hammer down on that. Wilson literally had nothing else that he had to do.
Regardless, hell of a throw.
Really
Regardless, absolute hell of a throw. I respected Russell Wilson before Sunday, but no, my respect went up a gajillion points on Sunday with Russ. He really did have some impressive throws, man, and that was the highlight of it. But no, I wanted to
really good. I think Kelly has a really good comment here where it feels like he as an Eberflus is trying to fit players into his schemes, not designing schemes around his players we have on the roster. I think 100% that is exactly what we are seeing through 2 weeks.
You know, it's so funny because Schottenheimer, not only during his introductory press conference from the very beginning, but also throughout his time as head coach in however long it's been, 8 months, he has said, we're going to figure out what our players do well, and we're going to build the scheme around them. And that you've seen that offensively. Yeah. You haven't seen that defensively. Yeah. It feels like it's trying to fit a square peg into a round hole.
100%. So confusing. You see that with guys like on defense, Mozzie Smith. You're trying to fit him into a defense that he doesn't really fit into. Donovan Wilson, fitting him into a scheme that he's not really fit into. Trevon Diggs, he talks about it consistently throughout his career. He's at his best when he's playing man. He had his best years when they played almost, not, I don't want to say exclusively man, but a very, very high percentage of man under Dan Quinn. These are the situations that he's played in, and you're kind of ham-fisting these guys, putting square pegs in the round holes that Eberflus is trying to do. And this was a big reason why when Eberflus was hired, I was not very excited. I think people get caught up so much on the results last year, but I swear, I really think that Mike Zimmer's style of defense would have been perfect for this personnel. And now that everybody is much more healthy, I think that you would see much, much, much better results from Zimmer in that style of scheme than what we have from Eberflus.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the thing that I point to the most, and I'm curious of your perspective on this, is a lot of these guys were drafted or acquired during the Dan Quinn era, in the instance when this team was running more man coverage than any team in the NFL. Mm-hmm. Is it man personnel trying to fit into a zone scheme overall, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it for sure. And especially it would be easier if Eberflus ran more match zones, zone match coverages. But he's playing a ton of just spot drop zone coverages, which just doesn't fit the personnel that the Cowboys have, especially when you combine it with the fact of how little they're blitzing as well. So you're allowing, these offenses to have more time to throw, find voids in between zones. And on top of that, you have guys playing in suboptimal positions for their talent and their skill set. And it's just a confluence of factors is causing the Cowboys defense to really struggle, especially against the pass.
Good question here from Trevor D. Sorry if this has been addressed, but do we think this is a Jimmy's and Joe's or X's and O's issue? It's a little bit of both. It's a lot of both, actually. It's a lot of both. I don't think they have the right safeties. I'm going to put Hooker in that equation too. I don't think they have the right safeties to deal with this, and I don't think they have athletic linebackers enough to play this scheme. I honestly think the corners would be all right. I do. I think they just need to play what's called. When you talk about Kyer Elam, and then Trayvon Diggs just needs to get his feet under him. I think the corners are going to be all right, but I think there's definitely issues with both safeties, and you need an athletic linebacker to be able to cover the middle of the field. You just don't have that right now. You might when Overshown comes back, but are you going to put him in those situations? I'm not sure.
Yeah, and I think that you're right about the safeties in this scheme. They're just not there's not the really glove fit that you're looking for. Yeah. I think that if you play different schemes, that these safeties would be fine. They would be just fine for what, with a different defensive coordinator with a different scheme. But in this scheme, just the personnel does not match the scheme at all.
I appreciate you here, Trevor D. You got a lot of things lined up. That seems to be the case with the rest of the offensive scheme. My only thought was Eberflus hired before Shoddy. He was not. Shoddy was hired. I mean, for all intents and purposes, I mean, it kind of was a front office decision, but Shoddy did have a say with Eberflus. But nevertheless, Shoddy was hired first. And he said, for that reason, I think Nahshon Wright should be allowed to go one-on-one with Pickens this weekend. And that's a perfect segue into our next segment. Let's talk about this Bears secondary because, man, it is hurt. It is battered and tattered. The initial practice report today, Jalen Johnson is not going to play, first off. He's going to be out probably the rest of the season with a groin issue. So that's a Pro Bowl defender that is right there out of the equation. They're starting nickel Kyler Gordon, who I like quite a bit. I am a Kyler Gordon fan. Did not practice today. That is one to keep an eye on moving forward. And then one of their backup outside safeties, in Jalen Jones, also did not practice today. I mean, this secondary is beaten up. You're probably going to see a reality where Nahshon Wright is starting. You might see a reality where Nick McLeod is starting in the nickel. I mean, this is going to be, if the weather permits, which about 50-55% chance of rain on Sunday at Soldier Field, if weather permits, this is going to be yet another phenomenal day for the pass game.
Baby, fresh meat, lunch. This is lunch. It is. CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens should have a field day. I really think this is a game as well that if Javonte Turpin can somehow get healthy enough to play, that would be huge because I think his speed, going against McLeod, if Kyler Gordon isn't able to play, that would be another big mismatch. I just think that, Dak has been playing at such a high level through 2 weeks. Pickens really stepped it up last week. You saw CD bring his hands to the party last week. So if that continues, the Cowboys should just be able to, protection permitting, they should be able to have a field day against this really, really subpar secondary. I don't see how they can consistently get the Cowboys offense off the field in passing situations with this secondary, as long as the Cowboys can protect somewhat, obviously we're going to talk about it in a minute that they have some mismatches that the Bears can create. But if the Cowboys can just have a little bit of protection, they should have a field day against this Bears secondary.
Yeah, and with the first 2 weeks of the NFL season, The quarterback going against the Bears defense has been the NFC Player of the Week in each of those 2 weeks. J.J. McCarthy week 1, which I thought was kind of bullshit, and then Jared Goff in week 2. But nevertheless, that's the fact. Jared Goff probably much more deserving for sure. But I mean, this should be a day for this offense. Take the over. Take the over. Rain or not, take the over, in my opinion.
Totally agree. I totally agree.
Let's move into the next one, because there's guys in the secondary. That's not the only ones that are doubtful to play on Sunday, or not doubtful, questionable more so at this point. Grady Jarrett is dealing with a knee issue at this point, which could be really big if he does not play. Let's assume he does. In this instance, TJ Edwards, their starting middle linebackers, also did not practice today. That's another big one in their front seven. But let's assume these guys are playing. Can the Cowboys find some sort of get back on this Bears defensive line?
The thing that worries me a lot is that Montez Sweat has the play style and skill set that could disrupt and really take over this game, because he's such a powerful and long pass rusher who knows how to do that extremely well. When he's playing at his highest level, it kind of raises the level of the entire defense. And going against Tyler Guyton and Terrence Smith, two guys who have a little bit of especially Terrence Steele has an issue with the anchor, but Guyton has shown a small issue with anchor. But the issue with Tyler Guyton that I think could have him having issues against Montez Sweat is he's had a lot of trouble defending inside moves. He's opening his hips too much in his pass set, and that's allowing people to cross his face and really have a lot of success on inside moves. And that's kind of what Montez Sweat's MO is. So I'm really, really worried on Montez Sweat. I hope the Cowboys have a really good plan of attack for how to defend him. Chips, double teams, all of that. I really think that I'm not really too much worried about any of the other people. My man Deo, I'm not really that worried about. I don't really think they have any other really pass rushers that can really worry you besides Grady Jarrett in the interior. But as an edge, I'm not really too worried. So I would sacrifice resources in the passing game to double team and chip Montez Sweat so that can have enough time in the pocket to be able to pick apart that secondary. So I know Montez Sweat is the guy I have circled, because I do think that the Cowboys' interior defensive line or offensive line can handle Grady Jarrett at this point in his career. I think between Tyler Booker, Brock Hoffman, and Tyler Smith, that they can do a good enough job slowing him down that he's not going to wreck the game. But Montez Sweat is the guy that can wreck the game if he gets too many one-on-one opportunities against Guyton and Steele.
Yeah, and you kind of mentioned it there, Brock Hoffman. He's going to be stepping in. That's a reminder. Cooper Beebe out for the next 6 to 8 weeks with what is being described as a lateral ankle sprain, which is basically just a sprain across the ankle. And then he has a small fracture in his foot. And it is exactly how it sounds. And so it's going to be Brock Hoffman for the next 6 or so weeks. I love Brock Hoffman in pass protection. Not a huge fan of Brock Hoffman in run game stuff. I don't see how the run game finds as much consistency as it has the last couple of weeks, and that can kind of touch on our last segment here. Can Javonte Williams keep up his hot start? I think it's going to be tough with that interior defensive line, and you now have a hole, I think, in the middle of that offensive line when it comes to paving lanes in the run game. You have to hope that there's some outside zone action and that these tackles can play up to the standard that they showed in week 1 in the run game. But where's your confidence level as far as Javonte Williams being able to keep up his hot start by no really account of his own? I think in this game, it's really going to be dependent on what happens up front.
I think this is a game where Clayton Adams really can earn his money by scheming up situations to create running lanes. I really like the opportunity to pull linemen, pull guards, pull the center, get them on the outside and really attack the edge of this defense. I think they're vulnerable there. I think you can create a lot of running lanes in that situation. But if you're just going to try to hammer it inside with duo and inside zone, I don't think that that's going to have a lot of success. I want to attack the edges. And honestly, a good way to attack is to be able to pin down guys like Montez Sweat and pull around him and get to that outside. If you can get outside of Sweat and Deo on the outside, then you can have on the edge, you can have a lot of success, in my opinion, against this run defense. It's just, you have to be a little bit creative with how you do it.
I like this comment from Trevor. Maybe a good week to get a speedier back on the hedges. If only you had one on the roster. Yeah. If only. It doesn't sound like this is the week for Jaden Blue, by the way. I did check in on that today. Sounds like we're getting more of Miles Sanders, which, I mean, has he been bad? No. Has he been great? No. Has he done anything to lose his job?
His week 1, he was pretty bad.
I like
that fumble, the missing the 2 running lanes. I mean, that wasn't bad last week.
You're right. Sure. You're 100% right. I like the 50-yard run though, because I don't think Jaden Blue makes that run happen. Even though he did get caught, I don't think Jaden Blue finds that hole, and it ended up being attributed to all of the next gen stats. You see that as rush yards over expected. Almost every service had that as a stop in the line, and he was able to make that happen out of it. I just it's tough. I wish you could see more Jaden Blue. It just doesn't sound like it's going to happen anytime soon. But overall, put it over under on Javonte rushing, or where do you think he goes in this game?
I would say over under would be 75.
75?
And I think that's about around where he's gonna get. I just think that he's gonna, like he has through the first 2 weeks, I think he's just gonna have 1 or 2 runs where he's just gonna get so much more, where he just breaks tackles, carries defenders down, turns a 2-yard gain into a 10-yard gain into a 15-yard gain. Those type of things. And I think he's just going to have a couple of those that are going to kind of inflate his rushing total compared to how maybe his down in and down out success, right?
Aaron, you just missed us on this one. I'm not super confident, and for those that are audio only, how will the running lanes be affected without BB? You just missed us on this one. I don't see Hoffman being able to create the same type of push up front, but like John said, this is the week for Clayton Adams to earn his pay and figure out some ways to scheme up some open running lanes. That's a great point, John. And the one thing I do worry about with this matchup, somehow the Cowboys are only 1-point favorites. I don't understand why. I think they should be more heavy favorites. But if the one thing that does worry me in this game, if it turns into a slop fest, the rain really starts to impact the pass game, you have to rely on the run game, and the interior is not creating any push. I think that's probably where you might start to have some concern.
Also, one more thing I think you might see is if Javonte Turpin is healthy, I think you might see 2, 3, 4, maybe even jet sweeps to get quick to the edge and use your speed to get to the edge and create those mismatches. I think that is something that could be really beneficial for the Cowboys this week if he's healthy enough to do it. Definitely don't have Jalen Tolbert do it.
or just straight out of the backfield, or just straight out of the backfield, like they've done a couple of times already. Javonte Turpin was at practice today. He was listed as a limited participant, which is a great sign going into the week. He was in a neck brace coming out of that game on Sunday. He's dealing with a trapezoid issue, which is something that I just learned exists, which is you could probably explain it better than I could, John, but it's basically a big part of your upper back that deals with shoulder and neck movement. And
why you do shrugs to get those big? You want those Brock Lesnar traps, baby.
I was like, trapezoid? Is this like what are we dealing with here? I didn't know we were in geometry all of a sudden. But, let's get into some questions. Let's see. If this remains an issue, could they look at maybe making a move for that change of pace type, or will they roll with Sanders until Blue is eventually ready? I don't see them making a move at running back right now. I think they're really comfortable with what they have. Thank you. I'm an idiot. This is why I'm not a doctor. Trapezius, not a trapezoid.
I didn't correct you, and I actually knew that. So.
I'm a dumbass. You should correct me, John. I'm a dumbass. Okay. Back to Trevor D's issue. I don't think that they will go out and get another running back, whether it be by trade or free agent. I think they're comfortable with their room right now, and I think they'll roll with Sanders until Blue is eventually ready. I think that's a good point. Let's see, Ceviche. Do you see them making any moves to fill any holes in the roster at any point? I mean, yeah. The Jadeveon Clowney thing I think was really good by the front office. It was kind of a sign of good faith by the front office to show like, hey, we know we have this much cap room available. We plan on using it. And so they have room to make 1 or 2 very similar signings at other places. Now, injuries are going to pop up, and I think they are kind of holding their chips in the case that those injuries do happen. So I wouldn't expect anything immediately. The Stephon Gilmore dream, you can pretty much kill it. I don't think it's going to happen unless injuries really hit that room like a freight train in the next couple of weeks. But I wouldn't be surprised if some moves are made at some point to be able to help the roster.
Yeah, I think the thing that in my head is something that they could be looking for in the future is kind of seeing how the season goes. And if for some reason around the trade deadline, they're right in the thick of things in the playoff race, maybe an Amari Cooper style trade that they had, to try to push them over the top, to try to really, make the most out of this season is something that I could see, but I don't really see them making personally any big. I think we're not going to get any moves bigger than what the Jadeveon Clowney signing just was.
Yeah. I'm just waiting for Devon Achane to shake loose from Miami.
That ain't happening. 30 other teams.
Yeah, that ain't happening. Exactly. You and the rest of the entire NFL. Yeah, it's with being a captain, do you think they'd ever think of benching Dono? That's an interesting question. They did it last year. And they think just as highly of Donovan Wilson as that staff did too. But when Wilson was continuing to have issues in that Zimmer scheme, they were completely fine, throwing him out for a few series and letting Wanye Thomas work himself in. So I don't think the captain status prevents him from having that type of designation.
We're honestly going down that road. If they're going to, continue to be stubborn and trying to use this specific scheme, I really don't see how it ends really any other way unless they're just going to be content with the defense giving up big plays consistently, which I don't see being the case.
Yeah. Well, we'll wrap on that, John. You got dinner reservations. Where y'all going tonight? What y'all got?
We're going to a place called Allora. It's a really good Italian place, really good pasta. It's one of those pre-fee menus where you have to you choose from a collection of things for like 3 or 4 plates. So I'm really excited. Yeah. Also, shout out to the USA Freestyle Wrestling. Since we last talked, Kyle Snyder with the gold, Helen Maroulis with the gold today. That was fantastic. Also in sumo, my man, this beautiful SOB 3-0. Leading the Basho, feeling great, feeling strong.
Yeah.
Love it. Let's fucking go, guys. Let's get a Bear W. Hey, Dom, we're coming for your ass, bro. We're coming for the Bears.
Hey, John, give me like a lasagna in the shape of a trapezoid tonight for me.
Oh, there we go.
Can we frame this? Trapezoid is just shape. Just say dumbass next time, Smalls. I deserve it. I appreciate you guys. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I appreciate you, John. Thank you, Caden, behind the scenes, back and rolling with us. But yeah, we'll check you in tomorrow night. We'll preview this Bears offense versus this Cowboys defense. Kind of touch on a lot of things that we did today, but how could they potentially exploit this running game that I don't think is very good for Chicago in my eyes. If they run out the personnel that I expect them to run out, I don't have a ton of concerns, but we'll touch on that more tomorrow. But for John, I'm Nick, Caden behind the scenes. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Stay blessed.